Hello, sir.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm well. Nice to meet you. Ed,
Nice to
right?
meet you too. Yeah. Do you go by Bob, Bobby, or Robert?
I use
For
them
me.
all. I
Okay.
use them all. Whatever you're comfortable with.
Well, it's a pleasure to meet you, and thank
Thank
you for
you.
doing this. I don't normally wear a t-shirt, but I bought this years ago, and it's one of those t-shirts I never wear. And I just remembered today. I'm like, oh, I have to. Yeah. So,
Well,
let's,
I got my Dunder Mifflin hat too, and of course I'm wearing Vance refrigeration. So we
there
got
you
a
go.
theme. We have a theme.
Yeah. So I had a question in here. I've got my usual laundry list of questions that we'll never get through because I'm not going to keep you forever. But one of them I had was, how did you personally never get approached for an HVAC sponsorship after The Office?
I did one
O-
actually for an outfit called Mr. Cool,
Okay.
and they were we shot it out in Utah. And it's really a very funny spot, a 3.5 minute long form commercial. The interesting part of that story is that Brian Baumgartner, Kevin, had done it the year before. And so everybody that, you know, contacted Mr. Cool said, why do you got Kevin and not Bob? So
Yeah.
the spot I did, I played five roles in it. I played the husband, the wife, the mother-in-law, the son, and the daughter. And
Wow.
so that was a lot of fun for me because I'd never played women before, and
Yeah.
thank God.
And so that was for like a local or regional
Well, no,
chain?
they're nationwide. They're ductless air conditioners,
Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay.
and they're pretty effective. And of course, after I finished the spot, I was trying to get a free one from him, and I never got it.
Oh no. I
That
should have
happens all
Googled that. Yeah.
that happens all the time. You can find it on my Facebook page. There's it's funny. Uh,
Yeah.
I enjoyed doing it. I did the same thing happened. I did a campaign for Cobra Golf back in the day with the great announcer David Faraday,
I saw
and
that.
I did six spots with him. And so after it was over, it was it was great commercials. And so I wanted a free set of clubs, Cobra. I was playing Callaway's, and I told them because all summer long, everywhere I went, people were, recognized me from that spot because infamously in one of them, I walked down the fairway with my pants down around my ankles. The
Yeah.
joke in golf is if you don't hit it past the ladies' tees, you got to walk to the green with your pants down. So Faraday comes walking up to me and goes, "Oh, pull yourself together, man." So, I said, "Look, I'm out on the driving range. I lived in Studio City at the time, and I went to this driving range there almost every day. And I said, I need to be playing Cobra because everybody's coming up to me talking about these spots. They said, oh, well, we'll look into it. But I never got that set of golf clubs either.
Oh, that's good. Why don't we start by giving an update on like what you're up to? I know you're on the East Coast where you're living. What's your life like right now?
Well, it's good. I live in West Virginia, which is my home state. Very beautiful. I live out in the country in a real small little town and up on a mountain. When I'm dodging traffic, it usually means I'm dodging deer or raccoon. It's so unlike LA. I lived in LA for 40 years, and I was recently back in LA. I think I can announce that I was filming a AT&T commercial with cast members from The Office,
Awesome.
which yeah, it was fun. It was good to see some of them. Of course, I travel quite a bit for office promotions these days. I go to conventions and I go
Yeah.
to trivia nights and stuff like that. But I spend my time, I'm working on a book, which entitled "What Line of Work Are You in, Bob?" which is
Right.
the famous line from my opening scene in The Office. Ryan asked me that after I've introduced myself 3 times in a row as Bob
Yeah.
Vance, Vance Refrigeration. As I told Greg Daniels, that was 17 seconds that changed my life. So it was, being on The Office. I mean, um, we obviously had no idea that it would turn into what it became. Uh, it's become maybe one of the biggest shows in TV history. And it certainly wasn't when we were doing it. I mean, we knew it was good and we won an Emmy. And, but every Thursday night we got our butts kicked by Grey's Anatomy and the Nielsen ratings.
Yeah.
It was after it went off that it became, it was found by all new generations of fans. And it's amazing.
Now it made it from the 6 episodes in season one to getting a full callback of what, 22 or something going forward. And a lot of people attribute some of that to Steve Carell's rise in popularity. Around that time, the 40-Year-Old Virgin came out. Like when, yeah, I know you were in season two, but was there ever talk that you knew of that it was never going to make it to season two, or do you know anything
Well,
about that?
the 40-Year-Old Virgin, after the first 6 episodes of season one, it was a disaster in the ratings. But the 40-Year-Old Virgin saved it because it was such a massive hit. They thought, okay, let's see what happens. And so they ordered 10 more. And I came in episode 10 of season two. And that week we got picked up for the rest of the season. So that took the pressure off the show. That's when I think the show, seasons 2, 3, and 4, season 5 are arguably the best. Um, so, I mean, obviously, everything kind of came together. It was a perfect storm, really. Our executive producer, Ben Silverman, became president of NBC at that time. So he has a stake in making sure that the show is a success, right?
Yeah.
Obviously. And so that was a contributing factor. And we won the Emmy in 2006. And so when you're recognized by your peers, that really is, in Hollywood, that's kind of the most important thing. I mean,
Mhm.
who cares if the country loves it? Do the people in Hollywood love it?
Yeah. Especially the people you're going to be working with or for in future
Sure.
projects, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. Now, I read or heard that Bob Vance was based on the way he says, "Hi, Bob Vance, Vance Refrigeration," uh, that there was a writer who used to introduce himself always with his full name to everyone. Is that true? Is that?
Well, that's the legend is Michael Schur, who's now excuse me, I've got one of these stupid summer coughs or colds. And it was a friend of his who always introduced himself as so and so, Chicago, Illinois. So, but actually, the greeting is very old fashioned in that when in the turn of the century, when Calvin Coolidge, or that's actually the 1920s, but he famously said, "The business of America is business," right? So there were all these businessmen or salesmen traveling on trains, and they would present their business cards, and the greeting would be your name, Bobby Ray Shafer, Charleston, West Virginia, actor, writer. So
Yeah.
it's a very formal greeting, but people were formal in those days. The funny thing is, I would meet actors when I was casting or producing or doing a project, and I would say, "What's your name?" And they would go, "John." I'd be like, "Well, okay." In fact, I was out when I was out doing the AT&T commercial. I was sitting at the bar and talking to a fan, the bartender, and I asked him his name because he's an actor. everyone in Hollywood's an actor, right? So he tells me his name. It's John, and I go, John, you got to tell me your full name. What if I'm casting and I want to, I want to bring you in? How am I going to find John?
Right.
You're not Bono, you're not Cher, you're not a one name Tiger, you're not a one name guy. So um, it was a good gag. I enjoyed doing it. I've said it millions of times, obviously.
Like,
I
why
still
don't,
do on a
yeah.
daily basis. Really, I make cameos for fans, and I do them as Bob Vance, Fans Refrigeration. So I'm still playing him.
Are you pretty busy on Cameo?
Yeah, I mean it's gotten a little lighter of late, but I still do quite a few of them.
Yeah. Before we go on to this, you were talking about your book that you're working on. Do you want to
Yes.
expand upon that?
Well, it's every job that I ever had in my life. So it's not just the 150 Hollywood film, TV, commercial, stage credits. It's all the other things that I did to keep myself alive and supporting my acting habit.
Cool. And you're in the middle of writing that right now?
Yes, yes. I just got up to my first big film role was a film called Psycho Cop.
Oh
And
yeah. Cool.
yeah,
Oh,
so
good for you.
yeah, so it's fun. It's kind of weird because you're living in the past. I find myself spending a lot of time thinking about, what happened and how it happened and who did what to whom and, all that kind of stuff. Stuff that you forget until you actually force your mind to recall it.
Yeah.
But it's been fun. I mean, there was some crazy, crazy jobs in there, Ed. I got to tell you.
Do you have anything off the top of your head before we move
Sure.
on? Yeah.
Sure. I was a wastewater treatment operator in Dunbar, West Virginia when I was 19 years old. And that was a pretty tough detail because I was the youngest guy there, I was the new man on the total pool. So I got all the crap details, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. Oh, no. There was a shovel and a wheelbarrow and, lots of grotesque things that most people never think about. And then when I was living in Hollywood, of course, I worked in restaurants and bars and I sold cigars and oil wells and did all kinds of wacky stuff.
Yeah. In the days before DoorDash and Uber, right? Yeah, long
Oh yeah,
before.
yeah. Well, no, I did have a delivery job. I delivered Chinese food
Yeah.
uh, in Beverly Hills for a short period of time. That was a lot of fun, that job, because it was a bunch of guys that from an acting class, and the company was foolish enough to provide us with cars. So we were racing around Beverly Hills adjacent, and we would
Yeah.
have these big motor rally races against each other. We spotted another car on the way back to this. It was just a storefront. The food was
Yeah.
phenomenal. Little Chinese chef, he was great. And Beverly Hills, they love their Chinese food.
Did you ever deliver to anybody you knew?
Oh yeah, Martin Mull and
Oh yeah.
Mel Torme, the singer. I mean, all kinds of people. I mean, the funny thing about that, and I put this in the book, is that when you knock on their door, they're not glamorous. They're not on a red carpet. They're answering in their dirty sweatpants and their stained T-shirt, just like we do.
Yeah, definitely. I was 17. I moved to California. I'm in Chicago now,
Okay.
but I had my dad's old Hollywood map of the stars. And so I
Mhm.
bought a new one. I compared them, and Jimmy Stewart was still in the same home.
Yeah.
And I'm 17, so I'm not really thinking. So what do? I drive up to his house, knock on the door. I don't know what I was thinking, but I remember seeing his wife on an episode of Jack Benny when they
Uh,
were on it as a couple. And she walked up, and I was like, oh my, and I said, I'm a junior college reporter. Maybe I could interview your husband someday. And she was kind enough to take my information. And he wrote me a letter and signed it and said, I'd love to do an interview sometime. And then he unfortunately passed away before we ever followed up on it. But yeah, so these
well,
days I would be
that's
arrested.
very gut seal on your part to begin with to walk up to somebody's door. That, you know,
Yeah.
Beverly Hills, you probably won't get shot there like other places in the country, but
No.
like Chicago maybe. But
Yeah.
that's how they're classy. The old school actors, especially when they're older, they, they're appreciative with their fans, of course.
Definitely. Um, so how did you first decide to pursue acting? Like when did you say wastewater treatment, this isn't my thing or whatever? I know it wasn't your thing, but when did you decide I want to go all in on acting? I'm gonna give it an effort.
Well, I was uh, I was in love with an actress and a very famous, beautiful actress named Susan Dey, and we were living together, and so I was doing some modeling, although that was a really tough gig for me because I'm too tall, 6'5". So, models are really 6'1", 6'2". Uh, in other words, you need to fit the clothes. They don't want to make the clothes special for me, right? Because
Yeah.
you know, although I did some Italian men's, wear ads and things like that. But so I was going to her sets, and she was making a lot of TV films and series and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so that's when it occurred to me I could do this, because I was watching other guys do it. And I'm like, what do they got that I don't got? So I went to an acting class, a teacher by the name of Peggy Fury, and she was a very famous teacher at the time. She taught Sean Penn and Michelle Pfeiffer and Meg Tilly, and Meg Ryan was in my class. I mean, it was crazy. Nick Cage. I mean, all these great actors. Eric Stoltz. I mean, I could go on and on with the name dropping here. And so
Sure.
I was in that class for 3 years, and it was very competitive. And in fact, my nickname was Mr. Scene because I was always working. I didn't go there to watch other people work. I wanted to be up on the stage working. So I constantly had multiple scene partners, and we were doing classic American theater. We weren't, reading TV scripts or film scripts. We were doing
Right.
Tennessee Williams and Harold Pinter and all the great playwrights. And so the teacher, Peggy Fury, and this was done also with her husband, William Traylor. They were from the Actors Studio in New York, and she had been Lee Strasberg's right hand girl. And so when she sat you down and told you stories, she was talking about Marlon Brando and James Dean and guys like that at the beginning of the Actors Studio. So it's Stanislavski. It was the method, and so when you learn how to do that, it's really a good foundation for an actor. And so many actors today don't even think they need it or do it. Or, you know, I've mentioned to young actors I was working with, have you done any theater? And they'd be like, oh no, no, I never want to do that. I'm like, well, that's what acting is theater.
Yeah.
It's one take. You don't get multiple takes. You got to
Yeah.
do it right the first time, live, 2 hours in a row. I mean, that's what acting is. Uh, when you're doing it's start, stop, on, off. Film and television. It's a different discipline, but the same. Uh, in other words, the essence of creating characters and executing them on demand. That's what great actors do.
Yeah. And you've got to bring it on take one because, like you said, there isn't another take. The audience is right in front of you.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's what makes it fun.
So now let's talk about The Office. Um, as you said earlier, it's totally accurate. It is one of the most loved television shows in history. And I mean, it's just the kind of show that people watch over and over. And thanks to streamers, it has reached a generation and maybe another generation after that. What has The Office done for your life?
Well, I always thought of roles as, is this a life changer? And that was a life changer, obviously. You know, when we went off the air in 2013, Rolling Stone magazine did a list of the 100 greatest shows of all time. And when you read this list, there's a lot of great TV shows over the, television's history. And so we came in at number 48. And so I thought, well, that's pretty fair considering all these great shows. But now I would think that we're obviously in the top five just based on the people who've watched it now, because it's 20 years that,
Yeah.
it's been part of my life. That's a long time. And I always think of the great actor Yul Brynner. Excuse me. He he had a part that he did. It was a stage play, The King and I. He played the
Hmm.
king,
Yeah.
and so he did it for years, right? And finally got tired of it, and he said, "Okay, I'm done. I've done it for 15 years. I'm not going to do it anymore." And then a few years later, he went back to it, and
Yeah.
people always said, "Well, why did he go back?" I'm like, because it was him. He loved it. It became part of him. So that's what certain roles give you, is that you get to live with it for the rest of your life. So I'll always be known as Bob Vance, Vance Refrigeration, which is fine with me.
That's a really cool thing, actually. I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of people strive for that,
Oh
or
yeah.
would love it, you know. So, um, that cast, uh, maybe because the show is on all the time these days, as opposed to reruns back in the 80s or 90s or 70s even. Everyone, it seems recognizable, but you for sure would not blend in a crowd when you're in the grocery store. How often do people come up to you?
Well, in West Virginia, less often than than other places. I mean, if I go out wearing the gear, of course, you
Yeah.
know. But I'm not here. I don't need to be noticed. It's fine to be
Yeah.
anonymous. I enjoy it actually. Then I get to go to the convention, and people love me for 2 days, and then I'm ready to come home and spend time with
Yeah.
my kids.
Before the next one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, I heard you give an interview, and I was wondering if maybe you could describe how I'm 56. So, um, love at 56, tremendously different than when you're 15. And in your
Yes.
interview, you described how you and Phyllis, and for people who watch this, Phyllis Smith is the actress who plays Phyllis in the show. So when you say Phyllis, it is Phyllis either way. Um, so you decided to portray your romance as a first love. And I was wondering if you could talk about that.
Well, it just occurred to me that the episode that we talked about that Phyllis and I did. It was Casino Night, which is one of my
Mhm.
favorite episodes. But in that episode, Michael Scott, Steve Carell, has Jan and the realtor Carol, who's his real life wife, by the way.
Yeah.
Uh, they're both at the casino night, and he's thought, he thinks it's a great thing that he's got two women there, you know,
Yeah.
for him. But I was thinking, when you have your first love, there's nobody else that enters your field of vision, right? You're totally you got the blinders on. You're not looking around. Like Hollywood's famous, you're in love, but you're also always looking around for something else, something better, something helpful, right?
Yeah.
And so I didn't want that to be any part of Bob and Phyllis. In other words, that's kind of the trick that we had, was that we're the older couple, but we have what every else on the show is looking for,
Mhm.
which is true love. So, that means that uh, Bob's very old fashioned. The key for me was in Phyllis's wedding. There's a line in the script that Phyllis said as a talking head. I don't believe it made the broadcast, but maybe a deleted scene where she says, Bob's other family from Ho Chi Minh City was not able to be here. So Bob was a combat infantry officer
Yeah.
in Vietnam in the Marine Corps. So once I learned that, that makes everything I do is that guy, the Marine Combat Infantry Officer, Marine
Yeah.
Corps. I mean, that's a serious in Vietnam. I mean, how is
Mhm.
Michael Scott going to do anything that could rile Bob?
No,
That's impossible.
it's big introductions, strong handshakes,
Yeah,
assured of yourself, all that
yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
yeah. And that was also my uncles are successful businessmen, salesmen, and so a lot of them are in there. You know, that confidence. Confidence is king, especially for salesmen. And
Yeah.
entering a room, I mean, again, I'm 6'5". At the time, I was 230 pounds. I mean, I'm a big man.
Yeah.
I've never lacked for confidence, and that's always served me well.
Yeah. Now, for your work on The Office, did you have mostly all interiors and did you ever shoot off site?
Oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah. No, in fact, most of my stuff is at parties. I go to parties with Phyllis, um, but we were on location plenty, and
Yeah.
it's always good to get out of the set. I mean, the set is what people didn't realize is that once you were in there, you were in there, and because the camera sees 360, right? So
Yeah.
there were no visitors. Like on a normal film set, there's all kinds of people standing off, off camera watching the action, but they weren't allowed to do that on The Office. So in fact, they wanted to move the show up to Universal Studios, and Greg Daniels wouldn't let him do it because he knew that would be all these interruptions from the studio executives bringing their friends down to the set, to watch us film. And you can't watch us film because, again, cameras looking 360. So
Yeah.
there's nowhere for people to stand, right?
Right.
So that was actually a blessing that we weren't on the lot. We were on this crazy location in Van Nuys by the railroad tracks in this industrial section, and all these people would find us. They when we would go out at lunch, walk out of the building. Excuse me. There'd be all kinds of people hanging out by the fence line, looking in, waiting to come over and sign stuff.
Yeah.
So very funny how they were always able to find us.
Yeah. So unlike a studio setting, you're in the building.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. We would wander outside every now and then.
Yeah.
Our
Yeah.
trailers were behind the building.
Right. Right. And then I think I heard you say that the church where you got married was down the
Yeah,
street from where you lived.
yeah. It was less than 10 minutes. I passed it hundreds of times a week. It was it was maybe my favorite location in all the time I was in Hollywood was that one because I didn't have a big commute. Uh,
Yeah.
So no, that was I enjoyed that. I mean, there was a store across the street. I used to stop and shop there all the time. I mean, I lived in that area of Hollywood or Studio City for quite a number of years. I love Studio City.
Now, when Pam and Jim get married, you guys have the famous dance that you're a
Yeah.
part of.
Yes.
What was that like shooting that? And did you and Phyllis get to pick your moves or how'd that work?
Well, it was funny because we were on location for that, but that was it was in the valley as well, and not too far from where we normally shot. Uh, and so originally we were at this place called Sportsman's Lodge. We were doing rehearsals there, and they brought in a choreographer who was going to teach us all these moves that we were all going to do in synchronicity. And
Yeah.
finally, they gave up on it and said, "Okay, just do what you want." So that made it fun. In fact, there's a great still shot of me and Phyllis coming down the aisle, and I've leapt up into the air, and I'm getting ready to smack her on the ass.
Yeah. I rewatched that this morning. I saw that.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, I mean that makes it genuine too, you
yeah,
know?
I know it was fun. I mean, at the time it was kind of a viral thing going around with that song. I'm not sure who sang it. Was it Chris Brown or somebody? It
I'm not
was
sure.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was kind of a big hit song, and it had been done at other weddings, so we were spoofing that. You know,
Uh,
uh, I forget who brings in the boom box, and they're playing the song on the boom box.
Dwight. Yeah.
Dwight, yeah,
Yeah.
it's Dwight.
Yeah. I don't even know if he had a boombox. I think he had a small iPod something
Oh,
or
is that
other.
what it was? Okay,
I think
yeah,
that's my
you're
memory of
right.
it. That so you on The Office, there's 9 seasons. You jumped on season 2 once they realized we've got a thing, we want to expand certain parts of it,
Yeah.
expanding Phyllis's character by bringing you in, and expanding the whole show because you have a business in that building.
Next
Um,
door.
w- what did that role look like as far as you coming in and them wanting you to be a part of it? Like, did they talk to you about how much your role would be going forward as you started,
No,
or no?
no,
Okay.
never. No, you just waited for them to call. I mean, I was a recurring character. I think I did 24 or 25 episodes.
Yeah.
And every one of them was a surprise. I never knew when they were going to call. And
Yeah.
for instance, in season 8, I'm not on the show at all, but my writer and Greg Daniels had both gone over to Parks and Recreation. So I had nobody in the room writing for me.
Uh,
So I didn't appear at all. But the other seasons I'm in.
yeah, I wondered about that. That was my next question. Why no season 8? But that makes sense.
Well, Toby,
Yeah. There you go.
Toby, Toby,
Um,
Toby was handling the show that year, and they the footing in season 8 after Steve left. I mean, it's a completely different show in
yeah.
many respects. I think, although I've watched some of those episodes lately, and they're still the same core characters. It's just completely different with Ed Helms as the boss. I mean, and of course you've got uh, what's his name came in there, and then you've got Spader in there, and
Yeah.
Will Ferrell's in there, and so I mean, there's all kinds of ups and downs with that part, and that's the anchor of the show, right? I mean, I always compared it to the Lakers. I was a big Laker fan, and it'd be like the Lakers losing Kobe Bryant. I mean, where do you go after it's
Yeah.
Kobe. I mean, it's the star of the team. I mean, you got to have him.
Right, right. I know that feeling because I was a Lakers fan in the 80s because my Bulls were horrible. And then we got Jordan. And then when Jordan
Yeah.
left, we've been nothing since. So it's been tough.
Well,
Um,
the kid you let get away was also a Laker, Caruso. He won a championship last night. So
yeah.
uh,
He
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 was,
said he said now I got a real one. Did you hear him say that?
yeah. Well, that
Yeah.
was a strange year, that the bubble or whatever they called it. I mean, that never felt like real basketball. When there's no fans in the stands, it's in a vacuum. I mean, it's like actors without an audience.
Yeah. It's got to be more fun for him with 22,000 people roaring, I mean, it'd be
Oh, and
more fun for anybody.
well, yeah, he hit his first two 3-pointers too, and that place went nuts last night.
Yeah. Would have been a nice game if Halliburton didn't get hurt. You know what I mean?
Well, that was
It
the
would have been fun
risk.
to watch.
That's the risk with the bad calf. Is that Achilles? I think it's the Achilles, and that's a long road back.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll continue on The Office before we switch it up. But going back to before you even had the role,
Right.
you you were running late for your audition because it was Halloween and LA
Yeah.
traffic, right? And so you get in there and are you unlike most of your roles or most of your auditions, are you like walking in flustered as opposed to, early and relaxed?
Well, I'm never late. Punctuality. I'm big on that. I mean, I always got everything early. So it just surprised me that day because I didn't realize it was Halloween and there was all this traffic. It was normally a 15-minute drive for me from Studio City into Hollywood. And so I'm sitting on the 101, and it's just we're not moving. I'm like, oh my God, what's going on here? And then I get into Hollywood and I see all these costumes and people running around. It's like Mardi Gras in New Orleans with no restrictions. Hollywood's crazy on
Yeah.
Halloween. And I can't find anywhere to park. So, I'm 15 minutes late and I'm the last guy of the day. So they're waiting on me. And I
Yeah.
hate to make them wait. I mean, they don't like it either. So,
Sure.
but I had a torn ACL at the time, so I was trying to run on it, and that's not really ever a good thing. I was just pouring sweat from the stress of it all. But again, I'd prepared really well for it, and so when I got in the room, I got my breath. I was able to kick into the preparation and. I think it was probably a week later, they offered me the role.
Wow, that's pretty quick, right?
Yeah, it might have been 2 weeks. The funny story with that, Ed, is at that same time, I had been offered uh, a job as the Maytag repairman.
Yeah.
And uh, I didn't want to do it. My agents wanted me to take that
Yeah.
because it was 100 grand, except it would have required me to travel to 250 dates a year, which is traveling the whole damn year. I mean, there's only 365 days a year, so 250 of them you're in malls and Home Depots and all these weird places doing personal appearances, and that's not what I
Wow.
do. I'm an actor. But they were thinking about the 100 grand. They get 10% of that, so they were thinking about their commission. And I remember one of my agents said, "Hey," I said, "No, I want to do this Office. I'm waiting on this show, The Office." He goes, that's going to get canceled. You need to snap up this Maytag repairman. I'm like, no way am I doing the Maytag repairman.
That's funny. Yeah,
Yeah, it is.
so you would have had 250 dates, but you wouldn't have been you. You would have been the costume,
Yeah.
as opposed to Bob Vance, people know you, you know what I mean?
Well, no, who was right? Who turned out to be right? I turned out to be right on that. I was correct on that call.
Yeah. So yeah, so yeah, that is cool that you were brought on and were able to join what became an upwards roller coaster that,
Yeah.
still beyond love today.
Oh, yeah. No, it's crazy.
How many Comic Cons do you do and trade shows?
Well, I don't do any trade shows, but I go to office conventions.
Okay.
That one. In fact, we did one in Chicago last year. Uh, that was nice. I stayed out on Navy Pier, which was beautiful, except
Yeah.
it was April and it was freezing cold. I didn't have any warm weather gear with me. I thought, oh, it'll be nice and sunny
Yeah.
on the lake there.
Yeah.
No, it was probably 40, wind chill, wind whipping off that Lake Michigan.
Yeah.
And it was a nice convention though. We got another one coming up in August in New Jersey and New York.
Right.
So we'll be going to that. Last year I went to down to South Carolina and I did office trivia nights. Okay.
Hmm.
And these things are crazy. There was 250 people. I mean, all of them were smart as hell about the office. They all knew more about it than I did, for sure. And I mean, they had funny team names and all that kind of stuff. And
Hmm.
they're competing for money and prizes. So it was fun to go to those. I did 2 nights in Charleston and one night in Greenville.
Yeah. Where does the
I do
office,
stuff like that.
sorry, where does the office go from here at this point?
Well, there's a sequel coming up.
Right.
Called The Paper, and Greg Daniels is running that. And so obviously he has not lost the ability to write or cast. And
Yeah.
those are the two key components of. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he does with it. I mean, we'll never bring the old, it's like bringing the Beatles back together, right? You can't do it anymore. So,
Yeah.
uh, not just because two of them are dead, but I mean, even when they were both still alive, I mean, they just weren't going to do it. And so time moves on, and it'll live in that vacuum forever. And Greg sort of made sure of that at the end of The Office when he dispersed everybody out into the world, right? He sent
Right.
them all over the place. And so he was making sure, because he knew there'd be people going, oh, bring him back. But there's no going back. It lives in
Right.
that time frame forever.
Yeah, they don't work there anymore. The vast majority, which just like
Well,
you said,
I
cemented it.
always, I always said at the end of The Office, the sequel should have been Vance Refrigeration
Hmm.
because I could have hired people from the office who still wanted to work for me. And we had all the sets, we had it all set up. We could have done Vance Refrigeration and kept that universe going. But they didn't. They thought they'd go with Shroot Farms, which of course didn't work out. And then, everybody went their own way.
Yeah, that would have been cool. I mean, some of the
Yeah.
people in the office could have worked for you, and that would have been a office, not the office. You know what I mean? So,
Well,
uh,
Oscar's in the new show.
mhm. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, you never know. I mean, Cheers brought out Frasier. You know what I mean? Every
yeah,
once in a while, there's a grand slam that, creates a home run, and you never
yeah,
know. So
yeah.
we'll see.
Well, Frasier went back to playing Frasier here last year.
Yeah,
Uh, So one of the guys from the office was working on that, a
right.
crewman, and he was telling me he was enjoying it. I saw him at one of the conventions. He said, "Oh, it's great. I'm enjoying it." Kelsey Grammer is very talented, very
Oh yeah,
funny guy. He's like Ted Danson. They've been doing it
yeah,
their whole life. So they go from part to part, but the talent is all still always there.
yeah, for sure. How many of the cast members go to some of your bigger office gatherings when you guys travel, like Chicago, that last
Well,
one?
a bunch of them. Rain was at Chicago, and the lines for him were just ridiculous. I mean, thousands of people were standing in line for Rain because that was his first one. And so that signature is very valuable to people, especially the collectors that we have on this show.
Yeah,
Uh, people want that because it's not easy to get it. The only people who haven't done it are Steve and John and Pam, and then everybody else has been involved. In Miami, last one we did, Jan was there. And the funny
uh,
story is, Jan and I uh, did Melora Hardin is her name. I call her Jan, but
yeah.
Melora and I did a prison movie together, right? After The Office ended, we ended up in this pretty spooky little prison film called Caged. And she was the mean guard. I was the nice one.
Uh,
Whoa, she's scary. But, it was funny. Uh, for instance, John and David Denham did 13 Hours, the Benghazi story together. So,
yeah,
what are the odds? And that's a great film, by the way.
definitely.
What are the odds of two Office, quote unquote comedians being in that film? So same as me and Jan being in a prison movie, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. In 13 hours, you're not thinking of them as their old
No,
characters in any
oh,
way, shape, or form.
no. No, that's a true story there too, by the way.
Yeah.
Those poor people were in it.
Yeah. Have you interviewed for Fan Level Midnight? Like
No.
okay. There was a production, a fan level production. I didn't know who they had interviewed, so I thought I'd ask you. It was just an IMDb thing that it was kind of in progress, but those things could be on there for 10 years, you know what I mean, in
Oh,
progress.
yeah, I did a couple of documentaries about The Office, but they haven't
Yeah.
aired. I might have
Yeah.
done Fan Level Midnight. It's hard to keep it all in track. When I was in LA doing the AT&T commercial, I saw Angela,
Mhm.
and she came up to me and asked me if I would be on the Office Ladies podcast.
Oh,
So
awesome.
yeah, no, and so it was funny because I said to her, people have been asking me why I haven't been on this podcast, and I said, it's easy because they never asked me. So she said, well, no, we want you to be on. We just haven't. Now we're going to do a show. I'll give you a call. Here's my number. So I'm going to do that show when they call me.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Let me see. I had a bunch of notes I wrote yesterday. What was it? Oh, it was something Angela related, but I'll pass on. Um, let's go to Dick Dickster. I just like saying that. It's fun. I don't
Thank
know if
you.
there's something wrong with me for saying that.
No, no.
Um,
Dickster is the combination of Dick plus monster. That's how you get
yeah,
Dickster, right?
gotcha. Okay.
Dick
Now,
Dickster.
now that's your baby. So
Yes.
how did you get to the point where you're like, this is what I want to do? And then how did you make it happen?
Well, that's a good story. I one day I was walking down Hollywood and Vine in Hollywood, and I looked down at one of the stars, the Walk of Fame, and the guy's name was Robert Dix, not Robert, excuse me, Dick Dix, Richard Dix.
Uh,
So he was an Academy Award winning actor from the 1930s. So I thought, Dick Dix, that's a great name. Director Dick Dix. So I'd
yeah,
always wanted to do a piece about independent film directors in Hollywood because those were most of my friends were independent film directors, right? And it's probably the toughest gig in Hollywood because you got the money, you don't got the money. You got
yeah,
this guy attached, now he's gone. I mean, it's
yeah.
crazy life. And so I started writing it and then I put it away for a while, and then I picked it up and read it, and I'm like, oh no, I got to do this. This thing is funny because
Yeah.
I wanted to make a mockumentary. After being on The Office, I thought, well, let me show them I know how to make a mockumentary. So the elements all came together. I raised the money, and I had my cousin direct the film. He had been working with the Asylum, which
Oh yeah.
is makes all these low budget knockoff rip off films. I'd done a couple
Yeah.
of their silly horror films. My favorite was Mega Python versus Gatoroid, starring Tiffany and Debbie Gibson, right? And so
Yeah.
that was their biggest budget ever. It was, they did the Sharknado movies as well.
Oh yeah.
So that outfit, it's high comedy. In fact, when I watched Mega Python, it premiered on the Sci-Fi Channel, and I don't like to watch things with people for the first time. One, I don't know how they've edited, and I like to watch it alone. And
Yeah.
so I was literally falling out of my bed laughing. It was so funny. And I thought, well, this crazy director. I always liked. There was a great film with Peter O'Toole, and he plays this demented director in it. I mean, he's he's an auteur, he's a tyrant, and he's coercing performances out of people, that they don't even know that he's manipulating them. Right? It's called The Stunt Man. Very famous film, and I love that movie, and I love Peter O'Toole. So I thought, well, this would kind of be like because I knew some crazy directors. I mean, you got to be a little crazy to do this job.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the conceit of it. And as it morphed on, he became a drunk and he only had one hit, and everybody's trying to kill him. And so the film was originally called "They Want Dick Dixter," and it's about people getting a revenge on him. So then Lionsgate came in to be the distributor, and they said, "No, this is called Dick Dixter." So that's what we ended up with. I said, well, they know more about distributing films than I do, so yeah, we'll go with that title change. But it was a lot of fun, and it was a lot of work because I ended up doing it all. I mean, I was
Yeah.
editing it, and I chose the music, I chose the backgrounds, I casted, I did everything. And that's my advice to young actors now is when they ask me what should I do, I say make your own movie.
Hmm.
What did Stallone do? He made
Yeah.
Rocky,
Yeah.
right?
Put
I did a
himself in it. Yeah.
I made a very famous film with Robert Townsend called Hollywood Shuffle. And that's the lesson it only took me 30 years to realize was make your own damn movie. Robert famously cash advanced his credit cards for 100 grand, and that's how we made Hollywood Shuffle.
Wow.
And so, it's a great. He's a black actor in Hollywood who's tired of playing pimps and drug dealers, and he wants to
Yeah.
be a superhero.
Right.
And so he got to do that. He did play a superhero. He played Meteor Man, and then he did the Five Heartbeats. He did a great long running series on the CW called Parenthood. So he
Mhm.
really achieved his dreams. He directed Eddie Murphy's first concert film after he did Hollywood Shuffle.
Wow.
So, I mean, it was really a door opener for him, right?
Yeah, I like him.
Yeah, he's great. He had a supporting role in a very famous film called A Soldier's Story, a 1980s film with Harold Rollins, who was the big black star at the time. And he was, Robert was, it was an army film, obviously, soldier story.
Yeah.
But he used that money to make Hollywood Shuffle. And it was a really great cast, and it was guerrilla filmmaking, and we didn't have permits, and we did the same thing on Dickster. We didn't get permits. We just ran around and shot it when we. The thing though on Dickster was that we were in a studio in Tarzana, which had been a porn studio. So, the conceit of the film is that Dick has to turn his only hit horror film into a porno.
Yeah.
So you got to turn Cult of Doom into Cult of Poon. So, we had perfect sound, and everything was pre-lit and set up in advance. All the stages were dressed, and we didn't. I mean, we would just went in and let actors go to work, so we didn't have to. When you're on location, I mean, how many times do you have to stop? Helicopter up, plane overhead, because you can't shoot when they're flying through.
Yeah.
So that was the advantage we had perfect sound, and we had the preset sets. So it was a lot of fun to make because it was all about the acting.
That's great. And,
Yeah,
and how long was the process from when you said, I'm going to do this to finished product?
took me 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, from beginning to end. So
Now,
you know,
obviously, go ahead. Sorry.
well, I mean, it's a labor of love. That was as fast as I could do it because I shot it and then I had to raise the money to finish it. Right, I
Yeah,
didn't have all the money, at once. So then I had to sell it. So that's a whole nother process. So no, I was on it for
yeah,
I was on it for a good long time. The funny story is Harold Ramis, who's great actor, director.
incredible.
One of my favorite Harold Ramis films is Groundhog Day, obviously. But his first directing film was a classic as well, Caddyshack.
Hmm.
And that film. I mean, obviously, talk about a film that nobody knew. It was just a throwaway golf movie. They didn't realize it was going to become a perennial classic.
Yeah.
And he had a great line about it. He said, "The best day of your life is when you wrap your first movie. The worst day of your life is when you watch the footage." So same thing on Dickster. So happy we wrapped it, and then we watched the rough cut. I've got 2.5 hours of footage that I'm watching. I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? What have I done? This is horrible. What am I going to do? But then I had to craft the movie. I had to make the movie. I turn it into a 90-minute film.
Sure.
So I had to. That's when I really had to get to work. The real work started once I had wrapped it and shot it, and it was in the can. Now I had to assemble it, and that's the trick of it is to be able to do that to
Yeah.
good effect.
Can you talk about your love of editing? Because that's what creates the final product.
Well, I mean that's everything. I mean it really is. I mean. Um, I had a couple of editor, guys with all the equipment. I mean, I was doing the rough cut on my home computer, just I think in a Windows Media
Yeah.
file, and then I would send it over to the people who would, actually cut it. And so every now and then they would do, some adjustments because they had more choices inside the scenes than I did. Because that was the advantage of making a mockumentary, is that I had three cameras rolling at once. So I was getting wide, medium, and close, all in the
Yeah.
same take. So that really, and you don't care if the cameras see each other, right? That's always the big thing when you're doing, a 30, a 35 millimeter, 70 millimeter camera. You got to be careful not to cross certain lines and do all that kind of stuff. Well, you don't care if, video cameras see each other when you're making a mockumentary. So that's an advantage. And then I had the talking heads and, all the things that made The Office famous. And also, I was a big fan of, what's his name? Who makes all the, Waiting for Guffman and For Your Consideration and
Oh yeah.
those films. The Spinal Tap actor. Oh,
I
I
don't know.
don't
I'm blanking with you. I know.
senior moment here.
Yeah.
Uh, it's on the tip of my tongue. Anyway, I loved his films, but I wanted to do my film at farce pace, which I had when I was in acting class. I was doing Feydeau and Moliere, which were French farcists, right? And so
Christopher Guest, real quick.
Christopher
Sorry.
Guest, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Uh, so the pace is, there's always a door opening and, people are walking in, walking out, it's always a lot of motion, a lot of activity. And so I wanted to play it at farce pace because Christopher Guest films, they're a little bit more languid, the talking heads, Best in Show, for instance, the one about the dogs.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
I'd love For Your Consideration,
Oh yeah.
which is a little Hollywood film. Home for Perm is the name of it, and they get this idea that Catherine O'Hara, who's a great comedic
Yeah.
actress, obviously,
Yeah.
that she's going to be nominated for an Oscar. Well, it's just a little film that nobody's really ever going to see, and it's a very they have very languid, long talking heads, right?
Mhm.
Um, so I wanted to be like, like fighters in a ring, throwing punches,
Yeah.
as fast and as hard as I could. So I was trying to keep the pace up. So that was, you know, because I didn't want you to ever have to sit there and listen. I wanted you to think, wait a minute, what in the hell is happening here? And
Yeah.
then we're on to the next thing. So uh, make you think about it.
Would you ever want to make a film again, like where you write and produce and do all that work?
Yeah, I actually have Psycho Cop 3 that I've written. And so there's some chatter about that right now. We'll see what happens. I mean, the fans of that series want it. It's amazing. I still do podcasts and talk about it all the time, 30 years later. And
Yeah.
it was just, a little independent horror film that by all rights should have already been in the archives long ago, but it lives on, And so I think I'd like to make it a trilogy and close it out. Then, of course, we could do Son of Psycho Cop.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah,
It seems like
Bride of Psycho Cop.
it seems like the Psycho Cop films have like a cult-like following that has
Oh
kept it
yeah,
alive, right? Or
oh
them,
yeah,
I should say.
big time. Yeah. Well, I'd like to think that has something to do with Psycho Cop himself. So
Well, yeah. It's got to be a fun role to play to step away from the normalcy of the day to punch yourself into a
oh no,
horror
I really
psycho
enjoyed it.
film.
And again, that was when I had just come out of the acting class. So I was a knight on a white charger. I mean, I was so into doing the method thing at the time that
Yeah.
I didn't really talk to the members of the cast because I was going to kill them. That kind of stuff. I was a purist. I've loosened up some since then, but uh, I was always trying with that role. I was trying to recreate what Boris Karloff and the Grand Masters, Vincent Price and Christopher Lee, those guys did with their, when they played horror film characters. I mean, they love the evil, and so that's what I was trying to get into. It was the love of the evil. Uh,
Yeah,
malevolent glee is what I called it. Malevolent glee.
there you go.
Yeah,
Um, if you if you end up doing Psycho Cop 3, it sounds like you've written it. Is that right?
that is correct.
Okay. And so you'd act in it and kind of the same thing, produce and maybe
Yeah.
edit, that type thing.
Well, I would probably let a professional editor, sit and do it. That's so much work. But
Yeah.
I would like to be in the room, and review the material. I mean, certainly.
Yeah.
Although, when you're that's it, the script, the way it's structured, I mean, it's not like it's designed to shoot it fast and furious, and it's not like you're going to have to sit there and look through millions of miles of footage. You're going
Yeah.
to have two or three takes on each shot and moving on. I mean, which is the way I like to shoot.
Yeah. Well, that'll be cool. We'll look for news on that maybe down the
Yeah,
line.
yeah,
Yeah.
could be.
Well, we've been on here an hour. I won't keep you that long. I've only got a few more cards. We've done
Okay.
pretty good. I was wondering if you could talk about any stories that you might have from some of the points early in your career when you had like one episode guest roles on, and I have Wings, Arliss, Highway to Heaven, Malcolm in the Middle, Becker, The West Wing. So some good shows, some sizable shows, and good work. You know what I mean? Building your career at that point.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you ever have a fun experience or story or anything that you could
Oh
share?
yeah, all of them. I mean, that's the
Yeah,
thing about it. I mean, it's a people business. The the one story I'll say I like to tell is when I was doing Becker. Uh, that was fun. I mean, it's Ted Danson. You're at
yeah,
Paramount Studios, which is one of my favorite studios, and I was the first rehearsal of the first day, and I was first up. And I'm not in a scene with Ted Danson. I'm in a scene with a couple of the other people in the show, and it was a funny bit, and we do the rehearsal. I worked with the director Andy Ackerman, who was a very famous comedy director. He did a bunch of Seinfelds, and um, I forget I'd done one other show with him.
yeah,
So, which is probably why he hired me to do the Specker role.
yeah.
And so I we wrap it, we do a couple takes of it, and he's moving on to the next rehearsal. And there's one guy sitting out in the dark in the audience, in the stands, and it's Ted Danson,
Oh,
and he's watching this rehearsal at 8 a.m. or 7 a.m. I mean, we're first up, so he's
yeah.
not in his trailer drinking cappuccino. He's already working, but he calls me over and he said, "Hi, I'm Ted Danson," and I'd already met him once before. As a matter of fact, I had substituted for him in a basketball game against the Los Angeles Raiders. He said, "Oh, I don't want to play against the Raiders. Bobby will play for." We were at some Save the Oceans Foundation or something, and he said, "Bobby will stand in for me." And so I had this great game against the Raiders. We played at Palisades High, and Ted Knight was doing the play-by-play.
Wow.
So, yeah, I mean, phenomenal experience because Ted Knight introduces me and he goes, "A fine young actor."
Yeah.
I got two credits to my name at that time. But I did get a slam dunk in the game against the Raiders, so that was fun. And I was playing with, we had Stan Love on our team, who was a
Mhm.
former Chicago Bull
Yeah.
and a left-hander. And man, he had a sweet jump shot, and he was just killing the Raiders. I was getting him the ball every time down, bang into Stan Love. So
Is that the Howie Long and Marcus Allen days?
yes, it was, and
Yeah.
Todd Christensen on the very first play of the game, he wipes me out. I'm going to throw it down, and he comes in and shoulders me and drops me to the ground. I'm laying there looking up, and he was a big tight end, you know.
Yeah, huge.
He says, that wasn't a foul. And I'm laying there. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was, Todd. So the picture in the paper, the Palisades paper, was me laying on his shoulder.
That's
And
funny.
the captain was Todd Christensen won the crackback block award of the evening. And I didn't even know I was in the paper. It was a big, huge photo. And a friend of mine from acting class said, "Hey, you're in the Palisades paper." And I'm like, "What?" So I had to run over and buy a bunch of copies. But that was anyway. Ted Danson says to me, "You, when we're doing the Becker thing, he goes, 'You've got it.'" And I'm like, "Got what?" He goes, "Well, you got timing. Not everybody has timing." And so that meant a lot to me. That's the kind of thing that,
Hmm.
means more to you than the LA Times saying it, right? Your
Yeah.
peers, your people you want to be peers with, that when they accept it. Same thing on The Office when we did Phyllis's wedding. Greg Daniels had a party at his house. We watched it live on broadcast. So Phyllis and I are standing on the front porch, and who comes walking up but Harold Ramis? I'm like, holy crap. I mean, you can't miss Harold Ramis. He's 6'8". It's Harold Ramis.
Yeah.
And he says to me, Bob Vance, Vance Refrigeration. I go, hey, that's my line. So we're watching the episode. And I'm watching Ramis watch the episode because this guy knows funny. And when we get
Hmm.
to the part where I say, if you ever I got shaking Michael's hand in the reception line. If you ever lay a finger on Phyllis, I'll kill you. Well, I kill Harold Ramis with that. I mean, he is dying laughing. So I'm like, all right, my work here is done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's, I mean, he was good at anything or anything he directed. And
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Stripes is one of my all-time favorites. You know
Yeah.
what I
I
mean?
just watched some of that the other day. It's
Yeah,
funny. It holds up.
it does. Convicted? No, never convicted. Okay, yeah. Um, yeah, so outside of acting, what are some of your other interests that people may not know about you?
Well, I love to play golf. It was got down to about a 10 handicap there for a while when I was playing every day. It's a game that requires constant practice, and you got to be. It's kind of like acting in that you have to just be totally invested in it, right?
Yeah,
It can't be a hobby. It's got to be an obsession. And that's what
yeah.
actors have to be, is obsessed with it. Now that I'm not in that game or in that life, I don't think that much about it. I mean, I watch old movies. I like to read. I lead a very quiet life in West Virginia.
I'll have to find out where um my my I was married and then we got divorced. She passed away from cancer and her uncle, I don't know what he is to me, just her uncle, I guess. Um, he lived in West Virginia and
Oh
he
yeah,
would send a Christmas, he still does, and he would send a Christmas card. He's on, like on the top of a mountain and he had one of those like old bathtubs outside. And
yeah.
one year his Christmas card was him and a woman in the bathtub. Like you couldn't see anything. It wasn't
Sure.
inappropriate, but it was classic West Virginia is what he called it. So
Mhm.
I'll have to find out where he lives. I can't remember offhand.
It's funny. I was watching a program the other night on PBS here, and it had a lot of old footage from the 1960s. When they first started to help with the anti-poverty programs here in Appalachia. And there was a shot of my little town that I live in now. And Kennedy actually spent, when he was running for president, he spent 6 weeks here,
Wow.
crisscrossing the whole state. And he always said that West Virginia was, because he proved that he could win a blue collar Protestant state because he was a Catholic, and in those days that was a big deal, right? Nobody,
Yeah.
no Catholic had ever been president, so he won here. And then still remember when I was 5 years old, we went down to the State House here in Charleston, and he was there to uh, commemorate the centennial, West Virginia's centennial. And it was raining. I'll never forget that day. They were holding me up, on their shoulders so I could see him. And
Yeah.
and then I saw the clip of that last night. I was trying to find myself in the crowd.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Just a couple more things. Have you ever had an opportunity that you missed out on for whatever reason, or that you turned down because of a conflict or anything like that?
Oh yeah. I mean that happens. I mean, I wanted to work on the show. My friend Tony Dennison, Anthony John Dennison from Crime Story, who was one of my
Yeah.
favorite series of all time. Right. Obviously set in Chicago, and then they moved to
Yeah.
Las Vegas. But he and I made probably 4 or 5 films together. So he was doing a show, and I went in and read for it, and I booked it. My agents called me the next day and said, "We got good news and we got better news." And I'm like, "Well, let's hear it," because I figured, well, I got that gig because I could tell. Sometimes you can tell, when before you leave the room, they liked you, right? So they said, "Well, you booked the part on the Anthony Tony's show, but we have an offer for Criminal Minds,
Oh.
so you're going to be guest star on Criminal Minds." I'm like, "Well, I didn't even. When did I read for Criminal Minds?" And he go, "Oh, it was they cashed you off a tape that you did from another audition." So
Wow.
I had to turn down the one because the dates conflicted. That's the only time I ever turned anything down. Because when I first started out, I worked with this actress named Stephanie Powers, who was a
Hmm.
beautiful actress back in the
Yeah.
day. Had been married to Robert Wagner and had that series with him. And so we were doing this crazy little show together called The Secret World of Dreams. And I said, "Do you have any advice for me?" And she said, "Yes. Yeah, I do. Never turn anything down. If they ever offer you a job, say yes." So I always said yes. I never said no.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Uh, last two things actually.
Okay.
I was wondering if you could give me your thoughts since you've been here, aside from the weather. Give me your thoughts on Chicago and what it's like whenever you're here.
Well, I enjoyed it, but again, I didn't get to get out and see the city like I would
Okay.
like to. I mean, it's a famous food town, and I'm a foodie. I
Yeah.
like I like good food, especially in LA. I worked with so many great chefs, and when I was working in restaurants and whatnot, and I like to cook, so that's kind of I'm a tough judge. That's one thing that's sorely
Yeah.
lacking here in West Virginia is a great food scene. Although we got a new Italian restaurant that just opened, so I'm looking forward to that. And I would like to spend some more time in Chicago. Uh, Navy Pier was phenomenal, so maybe we'll get back there one of these days.
Yeah. If you're ever in town, I'll take you to a place. It is
Um,
called La Scarala. It the cast of The Bear, which is, obviously a very famous show right now.
yeah,
They started going there. They just realized it and then they knew how good it was.
right.
And so that place became like wildfire. And I interviewed the owner recently and he told
Okay.
me he turns down 500 people a weekend. And he's like, I hate it, but I have to.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's one great thing. But
Yeah.
I worked at a place in LA called Nikki Blair's on Sunset, which was the
Mhm.
spot, right? And same thing, we were doing 400 dinners a night, and I mean, very high end celebrity hangout, right?
Yeah.
And you got to turn people away. I mean, there's no
Yeah.
room. There's
Right.
no room at the end.
No, exactly. Well, hey, thank you so much for your time. I
I appreciate
appreciate.
it.
And I was wondering, I never do this,
Yeah.
and but with you, you're a little different with this your name and title. I was wondering if you'd sign us out by giving your Bob Vance refrigeration
Sure.
spiel.
And what's the name of the podcast again?
It's like Generation X. I'm Ed, so Gen Ed.
Gen Ed. That's
Yeah,
clever.
yeah.
All right. You ready?
Yep.
This is Bob Vance, Vance Refrigeration. Thanking you for watching us on Gen Ed. Now go get something good out of the refrigerator.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it, Ed.
Stay in
Take
touch if
care of
you're ever
yourself.
out here, okay? I'll make sure
Right.
you get to the right place.
All right. Will
Okay.
do. All
Take
right,
care.
buddy. Bye bye.
Bye.